He used to tell me that I felt like home to him. Not just comfort, not just warmth, not just love home. The place he returned to when the world felt too heavy. The voice he needed when silence became unbearable. The presence he searched for even in the dark. I believed him. I believed every soft word, every late-night confession, every promise that sounded like forever. But one day, the warmth in his voice changed. The messages grew shorter. The calls came less. The excuses became longer. And the man who once ran to me started walking away without a sound. I tried to hold on. I tried to understand. I tried to believe he was just tired, or busy, or stressed, or struggling. But deep down, in the quiet corner of my chest, something already knew the truth before he ever said it. He wasn't losing feelings. He was replacing them. The day I saw her name on his screen bright, new, glowing, I felt something inside me collapse. Because in that moment, I realized something no one had warned me about. Home is only home until someone finds a newer, prettier, easier address. And suddenly, I wasn't his comfort anymore. I wasn't his warmth. I wasn't his safe place. I was just the place he lived in. While searching for somewhere better, and nothing in my life had ever felt colder. He used to send long messages in the beginning. Messages that made me feel like I was the only person he saw in this entire crowded world. He made me feel chosen in a way I had never been chosen before. He'd wake up early just to text me first, sending little voice notes that sounded like warmth wrapped in softness. He'd say things like, "You make my mornings better," or "I slept thinking of you." And every time he said something like that, a part of me opened a little more, trusting him more deeply than I should have. I didn't know then that some men speak in poetry not because they feel deeply, but because they know you do. He kept calling me home. The words slipped into conversations in a gentle, intentional way. At first, it felt like an accident. Then it became a habit. Then it became a promise. He said it like it was the truest thing he ever felt. "You're home," he would whisper. "I feel safest with you." The way he said it, his voice low and warm, made me feel like I had become something irreplaceable, something permanent, something he would never walk away from. And that's how it starts for girls like me. Soft words that feel like shelter. Words that feel like safety. Words that make you believe that maybe, finally, you are no longer temporary in someone's life. I didn't realize that a person who calls you home can still keep the door unlocked for someone else. He talked about everything with me. His fears, his childhood, his dreams, his regrets. Or at least the polished versions of them. The parts that sounded deep enough to build trust but vague enough to hide the truth. He had a way of talking that made silence feel full and conversations feel endless. He never rushed. He never hesitated. He knew exactly when to laugh, when to soften his tone, when to say something that would melt into my chest and stay there. I thought that was connection. Now I know it was strategy. The beginning always feels like love. It's supposed to. That's what makes the rest so devastating. He told me he wasn't good at staying in one place. That life felt too unpredictable for roots. But then he'd add softly, "You're the first person who makes me want to stay." It was the kind of sentence that wraps around your heart and squeezes it gently, convincing you that you are the exception, that you changed him, that you pulled something out of him no one else ever could. But people who say they can't stay rarely mean they will stay for you. They mean they won't stay anywhere. I noticed the first shift on a quiet Tuesday evening. His message came later than usual. No long paragraph. No warm words. Just hey, simple, empty, cold in a way I had never seen from him before. I stared at the screen longer than I should have, waiting for the rest of the sentence that never came. I typed back something cheerful, pretending not to feel the sharp little sting in my chest. He replied with a single emoji. That was the first crack. The next day, he didn't call in the morning. Not even a text. Hours passed. My chest tightened as I stared at my phone, convincing myself he was busy, convincing myself nothing was wrong. When he finally messaged me that night, he said, "Long day, no details, no softness, no voice note." Just two words that felt like a door closing somewhere inside him. Still, I tried. I asked him about his day. He replied with short answers that didn't match the man who once told me everything. He was drifting, and I could feel it in my bones. That strange, heavy silence between messages, the kind that makes you realize you're not the priority you once were. Then came the excuses. "I'm exhausted. I'll call you tomorrow. Work's been crazy." Little sentences that felt harmless at first, but they all had the same taste, the same distant tone. Like he was pulling something out of my hands without asking. Home was becoming temporary, and I didn't understand why. He stopped telling me about his mornings, stopped asking about my nights, stopped sending the long messages that once made me feel like warmth had a voice. Sometimes he disappeared for hours, sometimes a whole day. And every time he came back, his words felt lighter, shorter, colder. Like he was answering because he had to, not because he wanted to. I tried to ignore the sinking feeling in my chest. I told myself relationships go through phases. Lies sound truer when you tell them to yourself gently. One night, when he finally called after days of distance, his voice sounded different. Softer in a way that wasn't meant for me. Distracted, almost like he was thinking of someone else. I asked him what was wrong. He laughed lightly and said, "Nothing. You're overthinking again." But there was something in his tone, something I couldn't explain. Something that made my stomach drop without knowing why. I pushed the feeling away. I didn't want to believe what my heart already knew. A week later, everything changed. He was texting me, but only half-heartedly. Replying, but without effort. Present, but not with me. I felt it in every word he typed. Every pause. Every silence. Something was pulling him elsewhere. Then I saw it. Her name. A new name on his notifications when he screen shared a photo by accident. A name I had never seen before. A name that glowed on his screen the way mine used to. Short messages. Frequent messages. Messages with a tone you can feel even through a blurry screenshot. My heart dropped so sharply it felt like the air had been punched out of my chest. I stared at the name, frozen, confused, terrified, silent. He quickly pulled the photo away, pretending it was nothing. But I knew. I knew that tone. I knew that frequency. I knew that glow. I knew because that's exactly how he had looked at my name in the beginning. I asked him, "Who is she?" He replied instantly, "Just someone I met recently. Relax, relax." I felt something inside me break. Someone I met recently. That was the moment everything shattered. The moment I realized home isn't a place for people like him. Home is just a resting space between destinations. A temporary stop. A warm bed before the next one. A borrowed address before he finds a newer one. He told me once that I made him feel loved. Maybe. I did. But love is never enough for someone who's always looking over your shoulder at the next open door. And that night, When he said he was tired and going to sleep early, I knew he wasn't tired. He was talking to her. And for the first time since the day he called me home, I felt the full weight of the truth. He was already leaving. He had already found a new address, and I was slowly becoming the place he once lived, not the place he would stay. I kept telling myself that maybe I was imagining it, that maybe I was reading too much into things, that maybe he was just tired or stressed or busy with work. But nothing I told myself matched the way he was acting. People who are tired don't suddenly go silent when you ask a simple question. People who are stressed don't suddenly forget how they used to care. People who still love you don't turn your presence into an inconvenience. Every time he said he was going to sleep early, something inside me twisted. Not because he had done anything obvious, but because intuition is louder when the truth is trying to surface. I could feel him slipping away. Not slowly, not carefully, but deliberately. Like he was trying to detach himself without making noise. He used to compliment me every day. He used to say he missed me when we didn't talk for a few hours. He used to call me even when he was busy, just to hear my voice for a moment. Now he didn't even notice when entire days passed without a proper conversation. I became a background tab, something he glanced at only when nothing else was happening. And even then, he didn't stay long. The hardest part was his tone, the way it shifted, the way it became gentle, but not for me, detached, but not by accident. His voice didn't sound like someone who was losing love. It sounded like someone who had already placed his heart elsewhere. One night he sent me a message that broke me in a way I didn't expect. It wasn't cruel or harsh. It was simple, casual, barely emotional. He said, "I'm going out tonight." That was it. No details, no explanation, no reason. He never went out at night without telling me where he was going before. He always shared pictures, always called me when he reached home, always messaged me when he was on his way. That night, nothing. I waited. Minutes turned into hours, and every hour felt heavier than the one before. My mind kept repeating the same thought. He's not alone. He's not with friends. He's not with family. He's with her. But I didn't know who she was. Not yet. The next morning, he didn't text me. Not even a good morning. Not even a small emoji. Silence. That horrible silence that settles over your chest like something cold and alive. When he finally replied hours later, he said, "Sorry, rough night." No explanation. No details. No care. Rough night. I typed back, "Are you okay?" My message sat there for an hour before he even opened it. When he replied, it didn't feel like he was talking to me. It felt like he was pushing me away without saying it directly. "I'm fine. Just tired." The more he pulled away, the more the truth tried to force itself into my awareness. I started to remember little things that didn't feel important before. Times he disappeared suddenly. Times he took too long to reply even though he was online. Times he avoided certain topics. Times he said he was busy without sounding busy. Then came the moment that changed everything. He sent me a voice note. In the background, I heard something faint. A laugh, a woman's laugh. Soft, warm, close to him. Not the laugh of a stranger walking by. Not the laugh of a friend on speaker. No, this was different, intimate, close. Someone standing right beside him. Someone comfortable with him. My heart dropped so fast it felt like the floor disappeared under me. I replayed the audio again, and the more I listened, the more I felt myself unravel. That laugh was too familiar in its place, too natural, too present. It didn't feel accidental. It didn't feel like a mistake. It felt like a confession. I didn't confront him right away. A part of me still hoped I was wrong. Still hoped the man who called me home wouldn't betray me so easily. Still hoped I meant something to him. But hope is a cruel liar when you're in love with someone who's already emotionally moved out of your life. 2 days later, I got the proof I never asked for. He had posted a picture on his story. Not of himself, not of a place, but of a drink on a table. Nothing suspicious. But then I saw it. A reflection. A small metallic reflection on the glass surface. A hand. A bracelet. A woman's bracelet. The same bracelet I had seen in the corner of the screenshot he accidentally showed me earlier. The same bracelet that belonged to the name on his notification got my stomach twisted. My hands went numb. My whole body froze. Everything connected in a single painful moment. He didn't just meet someone new. He didn't just drift away. He didn't just grow distant. He replaced me. I looked at that story again and again. That bracelet haunting me. That reflection burning into my memory. That proof I didn't want but couldn't unsee. I typed to him, "Who is she?" He replied almost instantly, "You're overthinking." That sentence cut deeper than the truth. Overthinking. As if I didn't have eyes. As if I didn't have intuition. As if I didn't notice the changes. As if he could gaslight me into silence. I typed again, "Tell me the truth." He replied, "You're acting crazy. Calm down." And that's when I felt something in me snap. Not loudly, not dramatically, but quietly. Like a thread breaking inside my chest. A thread that had held me together while he slowly unraveled everything else. I typed one last message. "You said I was home." He wrote back, "You were past tense." A single word that confirmed every fear I had been trying to hide from myself. A single word that told me I had been replaced. A single word that told me he had found a new address. After that, he stopped replying altogether. For hours. For the rest of the day. The next morning, his messages were cold, formal, detached. He didn't ask how I was. He didn't try to fix anything. He didn't even pretend to care. He had already moved on, and I was left standing in the ruins of a love that was real only for me that night. As I lay staring at the ceiling, the truth hit me like a slow, heavy wave. He never meant home the way I did. He never meant forever. He never meant stability. He meant convenience, comfort, temporary refuge. I was home only until he found a newer, prettier, easier address, and now he had found her. And I was nothing more than the place he lived in. Until he was ready to leave. The days after he drifted away felt unreal. Like I was walking through a version of my life that didn't belong to me anymore. Everything felt unfamiliar: my room, my routine, even my own reflection. It was strange how someone who was never here physically could still leave such a noticeable emptiness behind. I kept replaying the little moments, the conversations, the promises he made, the way he said I was home. It all felt like a carefully crafted illusion that disappeared the moment he found somewhere else to place his attention. I tried to pull myself together. I tried to pretend I was fine. But no matter how hard I tried to distract myself, his absence felt like a shadow following me everywhere. I couldn't forget the bracelet in the reflection. I couldn't forget her name glowing on his notifications. I couldn't forget the softness in his voice that used to be for me, but now belonged to someone else. What hurt the most wasn't that he found someone new. People move on. Feelings change. But the way he replaced me so easily, so quietly, so quickly, it felt like I had been nothing more than a placeholder, a temporary shelter, a warm bed he used until he found a colder, shinier one. And that realization broke something inside me that I didn't know could break anymore. For a few days, he didn't speak to me at all. Not a message, not a call, not even a reaction to my texts. It was as if I had become invisible overnight, a ghost haunting his inbox. Someone he didn't want to acknowledge because acknowledging me meant facing the truth about what he was doing. Then suddenly, 4 days later, he texted me again. A simple, casual message. Hey, you okay? I stared at the screen in disbelief. He asked it like nothing happened. Like he hadn't disappeared. Like he hadn't deleted me from his life without warning. Like he wasn't giving another woman the same attention he had once poured into me. My hands shook as I typed back, "You vanished." He replied, "I've been busy. Double quotes busy. It was the same excuse every man uses when he doesn't want to admit he's giving his time to someone else. I typed, "With her?" My chest tightened as I waited for his reply. A minute passed, then 2, then 5. Finally, he wrote, "Can we not do this? Not do this." As if the truth was an inconvenience. As if my pain was an interruption. As if my heartbreak was a problem he didn't want to deal with. I typed again, "You told me I was home." He replied, "You were." But things change. Things change. 2 words that carried the coldest kind of honesty. 2 words that ripped open the wound that hadn't even begun to heal. 2 words that confirmed every suspicion, every fear. Every night I stayed awake wondering if I mattered to him at all. I typed, "So you just left?" Without telling me? Without even a goodbye. He replied, "I didn't want to hurt you." The absurdity of it made my stomach twist. He didn't want to hurt me. As if the silence didn't hurt. As if the distance didn't hurt. As if the slow replacement didn't hurt. As if not telling the truth wasn't the deepest cut of all. I typed, "You hurt me anyway." He didn't reply. Not for hours. Not for the rest of the night. I kept staring at the screen, waiting for dots that never appeared. Waiting for closure that never came. Waiting for a message I knew he didn't have the courage to send. In the silence, I finally realized something I should have known from the beginning. When someone calls you home too quickly, it usually means you're not home to them at all. You're just convenient. You're just available. You're just a space to rest until they find somewhere else to go. The next morning, he texted again, "I miss you." I didn't feel warmth reading it. I felt anger. I felt confusion. I felt the weight of every lie he had told. I typed back, "Why?" "She's there," he replied. "It's not the same. Not the same." That was the problem. He wanted both. He wanted the excitement of something new and the comfort of something familiar. He wanted a new address while keeping the old one unlocked. And for the first time, I didn't want to be that place anymore. I typed, "You don't get to come back just because you feel lonely," he wrote. "I didn't choose her over you." I typed, "You did." Another long silence stretched between us. I knew what he was doing. He was hoping I'd soften like before. Hoping I'd forgive him. Hoping I'd let him walk in and out of my life whenever he wanted. But something inside me had changed. The version of me that waited for him was gone. The version of me that believed his words was gone. The version of me that accepted being temporary was gone. Finally, he replied, "You'll always be special to me." I closed my eyes. Special. Men like him always say that when they have nothing real left to offer. I typed, "Special isn't enough." Not anymore. He read it. He didn't reply. The silence that followed wasn't painful this time. It was freeing, but it wasn't over yet. In the coming days, he tried again. Short messages, late night texts, voice notes where he sounded tired, distant, but wanting a piece of the comfort I used to give him. I didn't respond. It drove him restless. He sent longer messages. Apologies without meaning. Sentences that sounded like regret but felt like manipulation. He didn't want me back because he loved me. He wanted me back because he hated losing something he thought he owned. Then, on a random evening, he sent me a message that made me realize just how little I meant to him all along. "I thought you'd be stronger than this." Stronger. As if moving on was weakness. As if letting him go was failure. As if he deserved loyalty after breaking every promise he made. I typed back, "I am strong. That's why I'm leaving." He didn't reply for a long time. Then he wrote, "You'll regret this."